Alright, mainspring back in place. I'm going to make sure I get all the right screws in the right places here because I don't want to screw this up. So I'm just going to show it built really fast here. So that's the mainspring. So the mainspring's back in place. I'm going to put the plate back in. And then, so the next thing I need to do is put in the center wheel. So just drop that baby down. Actually, you know what? I think the center wheel had to go in before the mainspring. So mainspring taking. All right, the mainspring and the center wheel are in place. It's kind of funny because the center wheel tucks right underneath the mainspring unit, so it's a little bit tricky to put in place. So anyway, they're in place. Third wheel in place. Fourth wheel in place. Escapement now in place. That's the escapement right there. Alright, so here's the pallet fork. And the trick I learned a while ago, I figured out myself, was you can't put the pallet fork into the plate there and then try to hope that all the plates will line up. You're kind of screwed if you do it. So what you do is you put the pallet fork in. So I'm going to make sure it's in the right way, which I think is this way. So you put the pallet fork in, and then you use a piece of Rodico, right, to hold it in place. So let me show you how this works. I'm going to zoom in here. See if I can zoom in a bit. And that's good enough. And so I get my fine lenses on, and so take the pallet fork here, and it's got to be in between the banking pins, like this, like so, and then drop it into the jewel. Try to drop it into the jewel. Anyway, you get the point. So I'm going to turn this off so I can drop it into the jewel. Now once the pallet fork is dropped into the jewel of the upper plate, then I take a piece of Rodico. See if I can do this here. And I basically stick the Rodico onto the pallet fork, and I'm going to make sure it's sort of more Rodico on the the end without the jewels on it, because I know that I did it before and everything got in the way. So I'm just going to stick it on kind of right here with my tweezers and a little bit of TLC. So I just put it in between, kind of right here, and then so that's kind of stuck on there. I can grab the leftovers. Doesn't matter whether I get this stuff or not, because there. Grab some of the leftovers and then make sure I paste this thing down nicely. Of course, I've moved the friggin' pallet fork now, so talk about effing it up. This stuff is sticky. There. And then I gotta put the pallet fork back in here. There we go. And then I stick it down . I have to really make sure that the pallet fork is in the jewel, which I think it is there. So I think that's perfect there. And then when I put the plate on, the top here it's a little bit easier. So it is not an easy job putting a full plate on, because it's and make sure I don't forget anything, and then I got to put the plate on and make sure it all lines up properly. So and I'm gonna just grab this plate and see if I can put it on. There, I'm just doing this so you can see a non-master watchmaker putting the plates back on, and basically I just have to line all this up, and then you tweak it as you put it down. So with any luck it all just fits, but it never does. So just put it down like this, and then you fart with the jewels until they all fit in place. So kind of like that, and then you gotta fart with it with a toothpick until it's all in place. Anyway, that's how you do it. Okay, now you get the high view here. So now we gotta. What I do is I to get the plates back on, which is like a real pain in the ass with these particular full plate movements, is you got to screw the plates down, but you don't screw them all the way down. You just put them in so that they don't rattle around, kind of like that. And then the plate's going to not move when you put a little pressure on it, right? And then we basically have to line up all the friggin' gears, right? So if they're not lined up, then nothing works. So I find that this is probably the most difficult part of the whole game here, is getting all this stuff lined up. And some of these, I can see right now, some of the pivots aren't lined up at all. So you just have to go in with a toothpick and just pink, 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 move things around until it sort of flattens out. So I'm going to do that right now. So I believe all of the pinions and pivots are sticking through the jewel holes. But what I do typically is I just look at each jewel hole really close to make sure the pivots are in there. You do not want to tighten down a plate and have a pivot not sticking through, because you'll crack the pivot and you're screwed. So you really got to be careful. So I'm going to do that. And the last thing I do here before I tighten it down is I need to remove that piece of Rodico I put in here, so that the pallet fork can move freely. So I just kind of grab away at it until it's gone. So it's not too difficult a job, but it's an evil necessity. So, because of my technique of putting the plate on, which is actually a really good technique. The problem is I got tons of Rodico in here, so I make sure that pallet fork is in place, that I don't have any nasty stuff happening with the pallet fork. So I'm just going to move it a bit to make sure it's in place, because I want to make sure I don't want to. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in place. And I can remove this. It's by the banking pins, so I got to get it all. I can't leave any of it in there. So I think there's a little bit left in there. So got to get in there somehow to grab it. Maybe I can grab it from the inside. No, I don't think so. Good thing is the fork is moving nicely. So anyway, I'm going to grab that and then I'll be back. All right, now I've got to screw in the upper plate for the mainspring, and I'll get that on. I'll just tighten down the screws for the plates, various plates, and then from there I'll be able to make sure that these are all nice and tight. This movement holder really sucks, actually. It's kind of a plastic movement holder, which is okay, that's good there. And then tighten this plate down. I'm always nervous about this because I'm always like, okay, is everything in place? Absolutely everything in place. Slightly off and you're kind of screwed. So that's good there, and then that's good there. And so just check for movement here. Yeah, I got good movement on all the gears, which is great. And I should be able to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wind the watch up, which puts a bit of tension on it, and then when I drop the balance cock into the slot, then the pallet fork will whip on one side, and then the balance should start. So a lot of praying going on when this happens. So. And I've got to oil everything. Like the balance is oiled, so I'm good there. I've oiled the top, I've oiled the bottom. These are all cap jewels, so once I get the balance in nicely, then I'll basically be able to, it should swing when it's in. So if it doesn't swing, then I got another issue. So what I do here is I put the balance on either one side or the other side. So I'm going to get it on this side here, and it just snapped over, which is an excellent sign. That's the pallet, actually the pallet fork. I just snapped it over. And so, and you got to make sure the impulse jewel, the pallet fork is like this in the opening, the impulse jewel is like this. So you put the pallet fork on one side, and then when you put the balance in, it's on the other side, and it slides into the impulse jewel, slides into the pallet fork, and then pushes it both ways, and that's how it spins. So when I put this bugger in, I gotta approach it from the side that I fixed. So what I do is I take a quick look and see where the impulse jewel is. So the impulse jewel is way over on this side here. So I can put it in this way here, like this. Hopefully it goes in nicely. And then I swing it around like so. And with any luck, I'm getting ticking right away or soon. And if it's not in right, it won't start ticking. Okay, so it's not in right there. I gotta pull it out again. This is very dainty work, so you gotta make sure you do it properly. So I'm gonna put it back in like this, and then swing it over. And drop it down. And I'm not sure if that's going to be in or not, but anyway, I'm going to do some adjustments there to get it going. So I haven't put the screw in yet, but this is a very good sign. The watch is working. So it's when it's not working that you get all sorts of other problems. So when you're cleaning a watch, there's all kinds of things that could happen when you're cleaning a watch that could cause the watch to not work properly. So you really gotta pay attention to all the little things, and it takes just a lot of time. I've read 1,000 books on how to do this stuff, and it's just a lot of attention to detail. So I tighten down the balance cock here. I gotta make sure that I don't squish anything here. Seems to have stopped on me, so hang on. Sometimes I gotta make sure the pivots are in. I think the pivots are in okay. It's a tricky little thing here, okay? So I'm gonna see if it tightens down anymore without breaking anything. Oh, there we go. So it just needed to be tightened the crap out of in order to get it running properly. There we go. That's really tight, which is great. That's when I loosened it, it was super tight too. So, and that's running true right now. And I can make sure that the spring is inside the, yeah, so the adjustment is there too. And then what I do here is I'll adjust this again from, I've moved it from before. So I got to adjust it. Put on a different eyepiece here and get closer and move it out because I'm going to time this after, make sure it's running well and I don't have any issues. So make sure I don't screw this up by ramming the this thing keeps slipping on me, so just wondering if there's a better way of doing this. Anyway, what I got here is, yeah, it's working nicely. So I'm going to put it in the movement holder, that way I can concentrate here. So I'm going to move this arm way over. I'm going to move the arm way over by adjusting it here. So I've adjusted it more or less to center from a fast-slow perspective. And I haven't even really oiled the outside of the pivots yet. And plus I got to put a little bit of a very special type of oil on the pallet fork. And actually the escapement. And this is this stuff here. And that's for the escapement, Mobius 9415. And then I drop a little bit of oil in the pools. I've already oiled most of the pivots, so and then this will make it run even better. Now I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the, wherever there's an oil cup. I drop a bit of oil on the oil cup. And so I believe there's a cup right there. So I put a bit of oil on that. And of course the faster the watch goes, or the faster the gears go, the more oil, or the thinner the viscosity of the oil needs to be. So you don't want to over oil it because that causes other issues. And I have oiled all of the jewels with caps on them, so I have no issue there. So, and you want to put a thicker oil where there's more resistance. So, and this little red stuff here is my thicker oil. So I'm going to put some of that in the center jewel. There we go. That's a thicker oil that goes in there. And then where the barrel is, basically put a little oil on the edges there. Just a bit where the barrel is. So that'll get in there over time. And then flip this baby over. It's running nicely. Put it in the movement holder. Hopefully it's still running. Yep, no problem. And then on this side of the house, I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the other side of the jewels too. Right there, and I don't need to put any where the cap jewel is. So, and I got some wells here that I want to make sure that the oil is in there too. That way the watch will run nice and smoothly. And if you over oil a watch, it tends to collect dust, so you don't want that to happen. Definitely. So this seems to be working pretty well. And then for the actual movement parts, or the keyless parts, I have different stuff I use that I'll show you in a second. So this is the oil I use for the keyless stuff. It's 22, turn around the other way I guess, KT22 micro lubricant. And I usually put it down on a little piece of paper, and then I apply it You can see it's on a little piece of paper. And then I use an oiling stick to apply it. And this one here, I just use one of my thick oiling sticks here, because you don't need to be too precise with this. You just want to make sure that wherever there's a gear, there's always leftover stuff when I use this stuff. Wherever there's a gear for winding or whatever, you just make sure you put some of that on there, and then it's going to gather up and touch the rest of it. So this is a keyless movement, so this just ensures that the gears for the keyless section are working really well, nice and smooth. These were like incredibly clean, so so after you do that, that should be good enough right there. And I don't know if some of this needs some oil too. You don't want to put too much on, because then you end up with other issues. So that's good there. That's good there. That'll bring that stuff around. This here has got a bit of, you could put some oil on that too, or grease on that too, but it's not absolutely essential. So let me see if that moves. Yeah, so where this is actually moving back and forth, you could put some there too, but I'm not going to, because you could do lots of things. Anyway, I don't think it's needed there. Watch, it's still working. And so that's the keyless. So what I want to do here is reassemble the keyless stuff. So I'm going to put the can back on the oil side, and then what I'm going to do is grab the gears here that I had. So this gear here, and you got to keep these gears relatively dry, because if you oil these gears and the oil passes on to the wrong part of the watch, then you've got other issues. So you're better off this being fairly dry on the bottom, and then you can put a spot of oil on the inside to allow it to rotate properly. So that's what I typically do, and I'll put some of this stuff here, and I'll just put it in there, and that will propagate itself around a bit. And that's to just reduce friction on this piece here. And then I could put a little bit of grease here, but it's going to go from here to here to here, so it should be fine. And then I got to put get this on the right order here. So I'm going to put the cannon on, and do that. I just basically place it on top like that, and then I got to make sure it is lined up properly with the stuff below. I always find this the hardest part here, because you don't want to force this down too much. It should go down, but it should be just tight enough to not be an issue for the watch. So it seems to be really friggin' tight. I don't know why, but maybe it's just me and I'm pushing down here and not here. So yeah, I'm going to take it out of this stupid holder here and see if this helps me at all. Yeah, so I got a little bit of an edge there that I can use to push this down. There we go. And then I just make sure it's lined up with this gear here, because it doesn't look like it is. Because if it's not, then it's going to hurt the gear. I'm going to break it off or something, right? Just move that gear just ever so slightly. There we go. And that falls into place nicely. It's going to be just tight enough to be able to move around, but not too tight. So that goes on like that. And then this goes over the top, like so. Like that, and I don't really need to oil that because that's brass on. I think if I oil it, I'll have other issues. So now what I want to make sure is that when I turn this with my key, that everything kind of turns. So kind of want to just, I need another movement holder. This movement holder is a pain in the butt. So gotta find the opening here for the key. There it is. Change eyepieces. And then sticking the key, I stick the key in here. All this stuff should turn, but only because it is a special type of watch. It's only going to turn. It's only going to turn when that little lever is out, which is right here. So I still don't know what this spring is for, though. Maybe it's left over from ancient times or some friggin' thing, right? Maybe it goes on to the other side, but this goes down nicely, so I'm not sure if it does. So I turn it that way. And I put the key in here. Then all this stuff should probably turn, which it is. So there we go. So that's all turning nicely. And then I lower the globe here, right? And I shouldn't have any more issues. Again, I don't know what this spring is for. It's like, okay, why is the spring in here? Is this supposed to be over here like this? And then, I don't know. Could not friggin' tell you. There might be some other thing that used to be in here for other watches, and then they just built the thing and didn't bother putting the spring back or something. I don't know. Because this is working nicely, and there's no extra parts. So whenever there's no extra parts, you're usually good. And you're getting the backward movement and the forward winding. So there's no issue there. So all's good in the state of China. Except I keep dropping this thing out. And that goes on edgy upward. There we go. Now, the next thing I need to do is put the ring on. And the ring, let me just back up here a bit. So I'm not sure if you saw any of the stuff I was doing, but the ring, I put the ring somewhere. The ring is not the movie The Ring, it's the ring that I need to, basically there's the face, and the ring should be right here, so I just have to plop this ring in after I put the face in. Yeah! You gotta get this stuff in the right order or you're screwed. Now the face, the good way to tell where the face goes is if you look at the watch, right here, this little pinion is sticking out here, the pivot is sticking out there. That pivot is for the second hand. So, second hand pivot goes on like so. So the watch, when I drop it down, I don't like touching the balance, so I will drop the watch down. It should fit right over where that pivot is. So let me see, where is it? There it is there. And then I just drop it right into place. So there it is, dropped into place. And I'm just gonna shift this stuff around, and I'm gonna put it on. I just have to fiddle with it a bit to get it. So now I got the face on, and I've screwed the little tiny screws in, and everything seems to be kind of in. So now I just have to put the ring back on here, and this just protects the movement from dust. It's kind of a dust ring, I guess. And you just snug that in like that, and it finds its home. That's good there. So the ring is in nicely. Watch is still ticking, which is also very good. So I've got that in now. So now, being a good soldier and everything, I need to put the hands back. So And this is a tricky thing to do, so putting hands on the watch. And I like to put the hands on the watch when the watch is outside of the movement. So I'm going to just put this in here, like so. And I wish this thing were a little bit more flat because it'd be easier. So that's it there. So I just grab the hands and then press the hands on. So I got to get my hand fitters. So once again, I use Rodico because it's really easy to pick the hands up with that. And all you just do is line the hands up to 12 o'clock. So, and that's the second hand. Put that in at the end. And there's the hour hand. And so that goes in like so. So what I do is I pick the hour hand up like that. I line it up with 12 o'clock. Fart with it a bit. Make sure it's lined up with 12 o'clock. And then once it's lined up with 12 o'clock, I push it on. So you don't want it to be off from 12 because then got all kinds of other problems if it's off. So I just push it down with this device. Make sure the hand is on and flat. Then you got to check for space underneath the hand, and it looks pretty good. And then we've gotten better at hands over the couple of years here. I think these hands are magnetic though. Yeah, they are. They're kind of sticking to everything. Magnetic watch hands. I have a demagnetizer I can use to fix that, and these are the original hands, so they're kind of cool. They're unique, not the original. So now the watch, the hour hands is slightly off from center. So what I'm going to do is make the time slightly off from center. So it's a little trick I picked up. That way they are completely aligned. And there we go. Now that's basically on. And I believe it's very flat. So that's the two there. And then the third one, this is the easy one actually to put on, because you just take this, you stick it over the pipe, and I use a toothpick. So you put it over the second pipe. Toothpick and just push it on, and look at that, it's ticking. So that's on, and if you just take a quick look at that, you'll see that it's ticking away. So with any luck, when I move the 5 minute back, it'd be right on the money. If it's not, too bad, Jerry, too bad, I tell you. So that's there. That's the hands on, which is like one of the harder jobs. And guess what? The watch is still ticking. I always worry about that, eh? So now I got to recase the thing. So I usually do that with one hand, but before I recase it, I'm going to clean the case for 2 seconds and make sure it's in good order here. So be back in a sec. So when you clean the case, I use a toothpick and I just get all the gunk out from the edges here, and like that. You can see the gunk on the end of my toothpick, and I just wipe it down on the mat and then clean the mat up after. And you just want to make sure that most of the stuff that could get into the movement is gone, because you don't want any particles in the movement. I had the smallest piece of crap in the movement once, and it stopped the watch. So this will stop her dead if you got any crap in there. And so you want to clean up the movement nicely, like so. And then after you've given her a little bit of a cleaning here, you just wipe it down. This is a lint-free cloth. I basically got it from work for cleaning glasses. It's like marketing bling or something. So, and I just clean that down like that, and that gets rid of anything that could fall in there. And then the back part, just wipe this down. It's kind of good to leave it vintage. I've been told that over the years, and I should say over the years. I've only been at this for like 3 years, I think, but at it hard, as they say. So Olympic level. So, and this is a gold-filled extra cashier. It says that's the movement type. gold-filled extra cashier. So the movement is very clean right now. So I just make sure there's no grime left around where the watch is. I got Rodico here, and I'm just basically poking the Rodico around the edges here to pick up any particles that might be left over, right? So I'm pretty anal retentive here, so I'm giving her a good once over here, and then so that's good there. And I think I'll just Rodico the back end here a bit to give it some stuff. And I'm also, because I'm again such an anal retentive guy, I'm going to take a bit of this greasy stuff here and I'm going to put it on the stem here, so the stem slides in and out nicely, and there's good movement there, and it'll last a long time. So I just greased up the stem with this stuff. That's the stuff I showed you earlier, the KT22. And so now that it's greased up, and I can see that the time has changed on the watch, which is nice. That means everything is kind of working. See, it's not 5 minutes anymore. It's moved a bit. So, and the watch is still moving. It's amazing. Now, when I open this bugger up, it's got to go like that. So, which means the opening has got to be lined up like that. So, when you case it, basically you case it like this, and then drop it in a bit, and then I just have to take these screws and to make sure my hands are out of the way of everything, right? And I put the casing screws back into where they are, right? I think the whole thing needs to be rotated just a tad, so just about right there, like that. And then I'll just put these screws in place. And so you can see how this works. And this is recasing the watch. I should probably have a bigger screwdriver, but I just took what was in my hand. One thing, when you put the face back on the watch, you cannot let the face go down too much, because it will press on the movement, and then the movement won't move. You basically will squinch the gears down, which will prevent it from working properly. So you got to watch that. That's a danger, Will. So this thing is not in place, so I got to push it just a bit, and then hopefully you can see this. My camera should have been up a little bit more, but anyway. I just have to put these screws back in. I'm at an awkward angle to allow myself to videotape this, so I need a bigger screwdriver. I think I need a bigger boat. So there we go there, and I think I need to put this case even further in to allow it to sit properly and get all this crap out of the way while I try to screw this in, because it's not sitting right. There we go. Now it's rising up to the occasion. And I just have to make sure that when I haven't tightened it yet, because I want to make sure when I slide this baby in, it in fact fits. And it does. And then I want to make sure when I change the time on it, it works. Because this, yeah, and it does. And it looks like it's lined up really well. So that was perfect. So that's nice. So that's lined up nicely. Now the case, when I swing the case out again, I'm going to tighten those screws, because everything seems to be hunky Eldorio. So I just move it out nice and easy so the movement doesn't rotate at all. And then tighten down the screws, the case screws, without touching the friggin' balance. There we go. That's tight there, and that's tight there. That's perfect. And just before I close it, I'm going to take a quick video of the movement to make sure that it's still moving really well. Alright, there's the movement plucking away. I just took a slow motion video of that bounce, and it is swinging really well. It's way past 360. It's going all the way around, probably another 60 degrees past 360. You don't want it to go too far because it'll be over banking. So it's got a really good amplitude now. So it's clean as a bugger. It isn't timed yet. I just wait till I time it later. So I might just, sometimes I'll time it and then see it's going slow and turn the screw and then do that way. But I got a timing device I can use too to speed things up. Anyway, so that's it. I just have to put the top back on and she's good to go. And that's too easy to do. Just slide this baby back in and make sure you turn this a little bit to make sure it doesn't collide as it goes in, right? And then slide that into place like that. I think that's in place nicely, yeah. And then what I do is take the crystal. This is a plastic crystal on here. It'd be nice to have a glass one, but sometimes they replace the glass ones with plastic when they break, because they made plastic crystals for these a long time ago. So it's not unacceptable to have a plastic crystal on a pocket watch. So, but the glass ones are kind of nice. So I just make sure this thing is going in properly, which it's not. You got to make sure it follows the threads. And actually, it's pretty tough to put some of these on. You just do it loosely, and then when you put it on, you just keep farting at it until it goes in nicely, and then you're good as gold. Good as gold. And this is a gold filled watch, which is nice. No, it's fat on that side, thin on the other, so I gotta try again. Try again. No, that's not right. And sometimes it's hard to find the threads on these. I don't know what it is, but they it's like they move the threads or something. That's no good, and you don't want to strip it, so just make sure you get it done right, otherwise it's frigged up. Oh, yeah, jeez. Anyway, I waste my time showing you how to screw in the top. There we go. That is in nicely. There we go. And done. So there's Mr. Stewart. Your pocket watch is back together, running in an excellent condition. I was going to wipe it down or put a little bit of polish on it, but as you can see, there's some gold fill missing from the edge here, so there's really no need to do that. And somebody told me once that when they're in vintage condition like this, just leave them in vintage condition and they look a lot nicer. So the hands are on well, so they're not touching, and which is a good thing, and the thing seems to spin around nicely. So anyway, that's it. So I'm going to set the time on it. It's just after 2. So actually I can't set the time. Damn it, I got to take this off again. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll just let it run for a while so we make sure it's working, and